Þormesson. Valberg skorar. Valberg Gunnarsson hefur skorað. Ragnar Margeirsson har skotið og mark. Glæsilega gert. Óskar Rafn á móti Bjarna. Og Bjarni með góða sendingu fyrir og Haraldur Ingvarsson.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Best Pod Ever. This is one of your hosts, Joe, and I'm joined as ever by Trygve. We are going to tackle this week pretty quick. There's a lot to cover, but there's not too much to cover at the same time. So we're gonna kind of run through the results and talk about a few things, and we'll do our 3 stars of the round. And we'll kind of wrap it up there, I think, this time. So, yeah, in terms of the league itself, we officially have our champion. Although, as I was reading earlier today, they are apparently a couch champion. So, meaning that, they didn't actually go out and win a game per se to win the title. Am I saying that right? They weren't wasn't because of a result that they got on the field that they won the title. It was other results from other teams that kind of handed it to them. So we'll run down results real fast, and then we'll kind of come back to that and delve in there. So we'll go ahead and start there. Yesterday, Breiðablik hosted Víkingur. Breiðablik won 3-1. With goals from Victor Karl, Höskuldur Gunnlaugsson, and Yasin Dadi. And then Birnir Snær got the goal for Víkingur, kind of towards the end of the game there. We will come back to that game. That was a fun one. Elsewhere, and the result that kind of handed the title, I guess, to Víkingur, if you want to say it, was Valur hosting Valur, and that ended 2-2. Our boy, Benoni Brecki, on the score sheet with 2 goals. Fantastic performance from him, which helped Valur come back from being a goal down twice to tie Valur 2-2. Valur's goals came from Ori Ruff and from Patrick Pedersen. Also in the championship group, FH hosted Stjarnan, and it was a similar story to the last time these two played. Stjarnan came in and basically wiped the floor with FH. It was a 3-1 win. It was the Egger Aaron show for sure. 2 goals from him, and followed up by a third from Emil Atlason, who looks like he's probably secured the Golden Boot for the season. That's not official, but I'm not sure anyone's going to catch him. And then the FH goal came from giveth just after halftime. In the relegation zone, so giveth hosted Fram on Saturday in a very, very big game, and Fram actually went ahead in the 52nd minute with a goal from Thiago, who you and I both enjoy, Trygve. so that's good. And then it looked like giveth was going to snatch a win at home with Sverrir Pál coming. Helping giveth come from behind with 2 goals in the 80th and 85th minute for the young player. Really impressive performance from him. But then in stoppage time, Dengel Orson got one back from Fram. He made a run right into the back post on a free kick. Nobody was covering him. He had a free header. He just had to put it past the goalkeeper, which he did, and so it ended 2-2. Keflavik hosted Haukau. Nacho got Keflavik off on the right foot with a penalty in the 6th minute, and then Sammy Camel, who has arguably been their best player of the season, pops up in the 24th minute to make it 2-1 at the time, because shortly after Nacho's penalty, Marciano Aziz had scored for Haukau. So Keflavik gets a huge win there. And then finally, the last game in the relegation group, Fylkir hosted Kawa, and Kawa rolls out 4-2 winners, which is a repeat scoreline of their game against
Keflavik.
Yeah, so that is how it ended. The league table kind of looks like this. Víkingur are champions. We've already talked about that. Valur have now locked in their European place as well, officially, in Conference League for this next season. And then they're followed by Breiðablik, Stjarnan, FH, and Kaur. The bottom half, the relegation group, Kawa is holding strong at the top, not too surprising, followed by Haukau, who we're going to talk a little bit about in just a second. Then Fylkir from EBVUF and Keflavik. So EBVUF and Keflavik currently occupy those relegation places. Okay, I've done enough talking, so Tryggvi, let's go ahead and kick things off with the game that happened last night with Breiðablik hosting Víkingur. Víkingur already knew at that point before the game had started that they were champions. We had talked last episode about maybe there being some drama, and yeah, it didn't disappoint. Although it was a little bit less on the field, I would say, versus some comments afterwards. I caught this game in its entirety, and I will say that Breiðablik, they looked up for it, as you can tell by the result. You know, Víkingur has kind of had their number this season. They drew with them once, and then they lost to them once, Breiðablik did. And so for them to come back here and get a win, especially with two other clubs breathing down their neck for those European places, that's probably pretty big. Víkingur, to me, they kind of struggled this game. I thought it wasn't the greatest game from them. I don't know if they mentally had switched off because of the news that they'd won the title, or, I mean, I don't really think that's the case. They typically come into every game with a strong mentality, but yeah, I'm gonna shut my mouth and Tryggvi to give us your thoughts.
The drama was definitely before and after. I think it was a good game. Breiðablik just showed, like you said, they showed up. I think Víkingur, I don't think we can say that Víkingur had any sort of hangover, physical or otherwise, from the title win. I think it's just Breiðablik came into this game ready. I think especially after the last time they played with the whole resting a bunch of players and now Víkingur being champions. I mean, it was pretty likely they were going to be champions anyway. So I think Breiðablik were up for this game to an extent that I think it's hard to measure. They really didn't want Víkingur to have a good day here today, either winning the title or just enjoying their title. I think so. This was, and with them not having, I think if they'd had Europe maybe on Thursday, who knows, maybe they would have had to rest some players and stuff. But they knew that, okay, if we get a win here, we're pretty secure now with a European third or fourth place. So they showed up and they really got Víkingur's number. But yeah, we had some issues as always with these teams. Before the game, there were comments from Arnar, the Víkingur managers, saying a lot of stuff. But I think the main thing, the gist of what he was saying is that when talking about Breiðablik, he said they have lost 12 games in League Cup in Europe, which I think is more than Víkingur had lost in 3 years.
Shots fired.
Yeah. And then, talk about, like, I don't know, he didn't understand how a team like that you can say that they're a confidence team when they've lost so much. And then, afterwards, I think Oscar smartly didn't engage, because I think it could have backfired a little bit if Víkingur had then gone on to win the games. But after the game, he was very ready with some quotes that he doesn't obviously want to participate in these childish games that Arna's creating, but Víkingur, they think a lot about the number of titles that they've won, number of games they've won. I don't quite understand why teams think about these things, is Oscar's line. But then he went straight into the sandbox as he said it, and by saying that, Víkingur talk about winning and losing, but I don't think they've ever won in a European away game, certainly not this season. So shots fired, and then but before calling the whole thing, saying that maybe this rivalry has gotten a bit out of hand, and
Yeah.
So both managers trying to take the high ground. I don't think either one of them succeeded.
Yeah.
But Oscar won the game, so that's all he cares about, I think.
Yeah, and I think that didn't sit well too much with Arnar because after the game, and they didn't show this on the feed, which I was a little disappointed about, but apparently those two, when they were supposed to shake hands, bandied some words about with each other, and it got a little nasty, apparently. Not quite to the point where you had players shoving coaches down and things like that, as we've seen in the past. But so got a little chippy. The other piece too is, and I actually thought this was good, is that Breiðablik gave them the guard of honor prior to the game. There was some discussion, so I've heard and read beforehand. Oh well, is Breiðablik going to do it? Are they going to show the respect? Víkingur did it to them last year. Are they going to return? Are they going to do the same thing? That sort of thing. And they did. And so I think that was good. Yeah, these two teams, when they get together, it's a lot of drama and it's a lot of fun. So.
I remember someone on Twitter said that it would be a crime if this isn't the first game of the next season.
That that would be one heck of a way to kick things off. That's for sure. Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, that's wild. So yeah, that's a big 3 points for Breiðablik. That certainly helps them in their race for Europe. Briefly, let's just mention the FH Stjarnan game because I just wanted to say, so this is our second loss in a row at home, and really we should be performing a lot better at home, I think. But on the flip side, I mean, this Stjarnan team and Egert Aaron, I mean, there's no way that he's still in the league come next season, right? No way.
No, I think there was definitely stories like we spoke about that he had solid offers to go abroad here in the summer that he chose to stay, and I think that's mostly to finish the season, secure Europe for Stjarnan, which would be huge for them. I mean, if they qualify for Europe, in theory, he could choose to play in Europe with them. But yeah, I think it'd be very surprising to see him next season.
Yeah. So, just wanted to mention, I guess, kind of the rest of the schedule for these three teams between Stjarnan, FH, and Kaur, who are all kind of fighting for those. Probably one of the two remaining spots that are left. And Stjarnan's sitting in that spot right now, and they host Kaur next. But Kaur has been on a decent run of form. They have pulled 2 draws against opponents that have been better to them overall in the season, but they've really been able to perform strongly. So I think that's been a positive. But Stjarnan will host Kaur and they'll host Víkingur, and then they're away to Breiðablik. FH is away to Víkingur, away to Valur, and home to Kaur to round things up, and then Kaur away to Stjarnan, home to Breiðablik, and away to FH. So out of those 3 teams, who do you think has it the toughest?
I think it's FH, unfortunately.
No, I agree with you.
Víkingur are not gonna wanna. They're not gonna want to lose 2 in a row.
Yeah.
And then Valur, they won't have anything to play for potentially, but they're a team that they want to finish strong, I guess. And then final game where I think quite likely there's going to be a lot to play for at home to Kaur. But if they lose those first two games, they could be out of it by then.
Yeah. Let's just talk about Kaur for a brief second. So they've pulled 2 draws in the first 2 rounds of the split against Víkingur and then against Valur. How do you think they're going to fare away at Stjarnan, and do you think that we're going to be able to still have Benoni in the league next year?
Yeah, as far as I remember, Kaur beat Stjarnan at least once, and then the other game was that a draw or did Stjarnan win? I think, but I definitely remember one of the games where I think Isak Andri was still playing for Stjarnan, and we managed to shut them down completely, both Ekkert and Isak, as far as I remember. Maybe I have some rose-tinted glasses in my memory there. So it's not like Valur, where we've had a dreadful record to them all season. So I think there's a decent chance that they could at least compete, and it seems like we've gotten some level of confidence and some results coming. I mean, we should have maybe won against Valur, but yeah, so we're coming up in good form against the last three games. I think a worry that, like Runa said in his interview, that we're missing a lot of players. In the game against Valur, there were like 3 or 4 people who we would expect to start. They weren't even in the 18-man squad. I think Johan Kristin is suspended for the game against Stjarnan. He's been a key player. So it could be they're going to have to rely on a lot of youngsters, including Benoni. So we'll see how he is. And then, I would definitely be looking at him if I was a foreign club. He's fantastic. I mean, the goal he scored against, the non-penalty goal he scored against Valur, he's done it at least once before. We hit exactly that finish, sort of very nonchalant finish from across. And it's just, he's the fact that he can lead this disjointed coward attack says quite a lot for his character. And I would, if I were a foreign side in Scandinavia or something, I would definitely be looking at him.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I also agree with your earlier statement about perhaps Kauer should have had something more from this game. I think they had a really good first half, if I'm remembering correctly, and based on some of the things that I read, they're probably unlucky not to have something out of the first half. Yeah, it's been good times for them recently, which is good. And I also agree. I think they have the hardest schedule left. But
do you want to hear one crazy stat before we move to the next? So Benoni Breki has 7 goals, which is 1 less than Ekkert Aron. So he's basically scored. I know they're very different players, and I know Ekkert Aron does very many other things and score goals. But I think that's. He has the same amount of goals as Gisle Olsson at Breiðablik, as Giveth at FA, who's had a really good season.
That's amazing, yeah.
And two less goals than Kjartan Henry at FA as well. The man he's, I guess, replacing.
Yeah, well, it's working, I guess. He's definitely having a really good season for sure. And wow, yeah, that is something. That is definitely something. Maybe we didn't talk enough about Aaron. I don't know. We've talked a lot about him on previous shows, and I don't want people to get sick of us talking about him. But yeah, I mean, I can't remember if it was his first or his second, but the way that he just. So I rewatched it the other night, and he beat 5 defenders from FAO to score that goal. I think it was his second, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so.
But I mean. Ridiculous, just ridiculous. So, very, very Messi-esque. I'm not comparing him to Messi. I'm just
no, but he's fantastic. I also saw it when I watched the U21 game the other week in Iceland, where he was playing a really deep role. Like, he was one of the deepest midfielders there. So many times when it didn't always come off, but so many times when he just ran with the ball and played 1-2 with Isak Andri, and he made the first goal there. So he's definitely ready for the next step. And there's not much we can say that we haven't said 1,000 times. Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, then let's talk about the relegation group. I want to start off by talking about Keflavik, actually. So they're sitting at the bottom of the table on 15 points. It's not looking likely, but they're not technically out of it yet. This was a must-win for them, and they got it. Something interesting that I saw is that for this game against Haukau, all 3 of the goal scorers were foreign players, which I thought was really interesting. So Nacho from Spain, he got the penalty, the first goal. And then Marciano Aziz from Belgium leveled for Haukau. And then Sammy Camel, Danish, but he also has Syrian heritage, I think. Is it Syrian? I can't remember. But anyways, he got the winner for them. So that's Keflavik's first win since Easter. Big 3 points for them, and they should be super happy with that, definitely. On the flip side for Haukau, I guess my thought with them is I think they're really lucky that some of the teams below them haven't been able to win any games.
For sure, yeah. Like we talked about last episode, they're super lucky that the other teams can't seem to buy a win at the moment. Because if they were a bit more lucky, some of the teams below there, Hauka would be in real trouble. I think they're looking very much like they're on the beach, but maybe that's also because they know they're probably not going to get dragged into this.
Well, see, that's interesting because the captain for Haukau, Leifur Andri, he had some comments after that game that were, I guess, maybe shows where their mentality is. I think that they're still of the mindset that, this is still, they're still in the fight. He says, well, so the question was asked to him, you're pretty much out of trouble now, aren't you? And he responds back and he says, no, I'm not going to say that at all. We only need to win one game and we are running out of them. We're not going to panic here in the final round, so we just need to get going and deliver the victory that we're aiming for. Yes, I'm just going to hope that we use this anger that is in us after this loss and use it as energy in the next game at home. Some interesting comments from the captain of Haukau there. And yeah, like they're going to need to figure something out because, yeah, you've got only a 4-point gap now between them and Fylkir, and Fylkir are only 1 point above Fram and EBVUF, so it is pretty tight down there. As you mentioned last week, though, there are 3 teams between them and the relegation spot, so there is a little bit of a buffer there, but I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see how they respond.
Yeah, I think if they were 2 points down, if they're on 24, then okay, it's all the teams below them only have to get 1 win. Maybe I think maybe I'll have to eat these words in 2 weeks' time. But yeah, I don't see a way they can screw this up at this point. But yeah, but I mean they just lost to Keflavik, so I guess anything's possible.
Yeah. Yeah, and they play Fylkir next at home in the choir, and so that's gonna be an interesting game because Fylkir is definitely gonna be coming for maximum points for sure. So I'm looking forward to that one. Yeah, and did you want to mention anything about Keflavik or should we move on?
I think it's admirable that they're still fighting at this point. I think, of course, they're not technically down, but if they can save themselves, it would be the story of the season. I think we have to give manager of the season to
the great escape
to them because that would be incredible. I mean, they haven't played, like you mentioned, Sami Kano has been a huge injection of quality into this side, and I think after he came back from his injury, they have played better. They have looked like they could get some points. It's just they could never quite. They score goals and then score 2 and they lose 3-2. They score 3, they lose 4-3. It's just they couldn't get the coin to fall on the right side for them. So it's not like they've been absolutely dreadful like maybe they looked in the beginning of the season. But I think it's a bit too late. But let's see. I mean they have Fram next away. So if they can get a win there again, then let's talk.
Yeah, right. Well, speaking of dreadful and speaking of Fram, which you don't necessarily want to use both of those in the same sentence, but in this instance we kind of are because their game against EBVUF was pretty dreadful. Like you literally could have tuned in for the last 15 minutes of that game and you would have seen all you need to see. Like the last 15 minutes was by far the best part of the game. So after Thiago scored for Fram, and we won't go into too much detail here, Fram they just kind of, to me anyways, they kind of sat back a little bit and invited EBVUF to come forward. And I mentioned this on our Twitter account, but like it started to get so routine with the way that EBVUF was going forward. Spread it wide to the wings, cross the ball into the box, try to get somebody to get a header on it, right? So they'd clearly identified something in the Fram defense where Fram has a hard time defending against balls coming into the box. And eventually it worked, not once, but kind of twice. And, Sverre Paul getting both those goals, which was huge for them. But then the EBVUF defense just fell apart on that final goal with that back post run from Dengel Orason. A point for each of these teams. again, doesn't really do much of anything for them. And then with Fylkir losing to Kawa, we're kind of right where we were last week, honestly.
Yeah, no, I think Fram will be very disappointed to only have 2 points from these first 2 games, and they have Keflavik at home coming up, which they have to win. Like, if they don't win that, I think they're in serious trouble, because then it's Kawa, who don't seem to be giving anyone. They don't seem to. They have nothing to play for, but they don't seem to care. They seem to want to finish the season on a high, and I understand that. So
Yeah.
I think Fylkir have maybe the easiest or the best run-in because they don't have to play. They've played Kawa now. Well, Fram and Iba still have to play them. So yeah, I think Fram are in trouble, and they really need a win here.
Yep.
Because if they don't, then they're maybe maximum looking at 4 points from the last 3 games. If they draw or lose, if they draw against Keflavik, so then they have to try to win away at Fylkir, who are definitely not going to be super safe by the last game, I think. So it's they really need a win now, and yeah,
Right.
Yeah, I think it's. We talked about it a few weeks ago when they played really well against Breiðablik, maybe, or Valur.
Breiðablik.
Yeah, and we talked about how they've quite played quite well, and we talked about how they need to take this mentality into these sort of games, and it doesn't seem like they have. The way you describe it, it doesn't seem like they've taken this go for every ball, fight for every inch thing into these games where this is when they really need it. They needed to win. If they'd come away with 6 points from these last 2 games, which isn't crazy. Like, they could have easily won both these games.
Yeah.
They could be almost safe by now. But, so they only have themselves to blame. But, yeah, I think the first EBUF goal was quite nice. The second one was...
Scrappy.
Not the greatest. Yeah, not the goalkeeping there. Maybe could leave something to be desired.
Yeah. No, I agree. Let's just briefly talk about Fylkir and Kawa. I mean, we kind of already have, but any talking points specifically that you wanted to mention with those two?
Fylkir, I think we said what there is to say. I think they really need to. They have Hauko away and Keflavik away the next 3 games. They need points there,
right?
And they're a team that I mean, you could see them beating Hauko and Keflavik and be pulling safe from this thing, but then you could also see them losing or drawing. Like, they're a very yo-yo-y team this season, so it's you have no idea what's coming from Fylkir, but it doesn't seem like in the last few weeks they've been struggling a little bit. But on a happier note, on the Kawa side, like I said, they don't seem to be giving up, and one reason for their pickup, I guess, over the last few weeks has been Hallgrímur Mar Steingrímsson, who's had a pretty good season, and he's now tied the league record for most assists in a campaign. He's played more games because it's a longer season than it has been in the past, but still, that's 13 assists this season. That's quite impressive for a team that's struggled this season.
It is. No, completely agree, and I definitely think that's worth mentioning. So he's clearly a key part to their success, that's for sure. Good. Any other thoughts from bottom half?
I think I'm a bit disappointed in Fram. I think I said a few weeks ago that I thought they would be safe earlier than this. I'd seen some things from the new manager and from the team, and I thought they could be doing better at this point in the season. I'm kind of disappointed that they're not. So, yeah, I don't really know who's going down. Giveth seem to be struggling for, like, they can't, like you said, they seem to be getting some things. In the first goal, they seem to showed off some nice individual movements, especially from some of the new players. But yeah, they seem to lack a bit of team cohesion, and I have no idea what's going down.
Yeah.
Apart from Keflavik.
Yeah. No, it is an exciting little race we've got going on there for sure. All right, well let's move to talking about Europe a little bit. Breiðablik had their first game in Europe this last week against Maccabi Tel Aviv. I watched this game, and I was pretty impressed, actually. I thought Breiðablik held their own pretty well, to be honest. Like, in terms of the flow of the game and the feel of the game as you were watching this, like, they didn't really look out of place, and I thought that was good. I thought that was really good. Yeah, the scoreline in the end wasn't great. They ended up losing. Was it 3-1 or 3-2? I think it was 3-2.
3-2, yeah.
Yeah, with Clement Olsen grabbing two goals, and everybody was hooting and hollering because the Conference League put out a graphic that had him as, the one of the top scorers of the league so far, or whatever, on 2 goals, right? But everybody else had 2 goals in that graphic too. So he's right there with the rest. So, I mean, that is kind of cool to see him up there and representing an Icelandic team. That's pretty neat for sure. They struggled the first half with just little blips, like little instances where they just kind of fell asleep, and I think Maccabi took good advantage of those, and so they kind of raced out to this lead, this 3-0 lead, and then in the second half, Breiðablik really tightened things down, and like I said, Clement Olsen got his 2 goals, and for a while there, it looked like maybe they would come back and snatch a 3-3 draw. It did kind of feel like that. They definitely had some chances to make it level for sure, but it didn't end up that way. Yeah, what are your thoughts on this game?
Quite impressive, especially when they were 3-0 down. You gotta be worried for them.
Yeah,
it's like, oh no, this is away in Israel as well. This could get ugly, but no, nice fight back. We were looking at the stats a little bit, and I was a bit surprised to see the XG for this game. I know the first goal I think the Maccabi scored was quite nice, like a right back scoring from way outside the area, really nice goal. But in total, I think their XG is just over 1, and Breiðablik is 0.7 as well. So it's looking at that, it's a bit crazy that this game ended 3-2. And maybe that's something to do with we have talked about this season, Breiðablik's struggles in the goalkeeping and defense area sometimes this season. Not every time, but there have been games when they've had some issues there.
Yes, definitely interesting. They're off this week. They're off for a little bit actually, and they don't have another Conference League game until October 5th, and they're hosting the Ukrainian team, Zorya Luhansk. So it'll be interesting to see if they can grab anything from that. Zorya actually got a very somewhat surprising draw with Ghent from Belgium, who's the other team in this group. And I didn't expect to see that happening. We'll have to see what they can do and how they continue to manage this.
I thought it was interesting that for another result from the Conference League was that Srnski Mostar, who played and beat Breiðablik earlier in European qualifying, they came back, but they came back from a 3-0. They were 3-0 down at Alkmaar, and they won 4-3. So that shows a little bit the quality that Breiðablik were up against back then. I remember us talking and being a little bit, we don't know much about this team, and I know some people in Iceland were very bullish about Breiðablik's chances against Mostar. That oh, it's just a Bosnian team. We'll walk over them.
Yeah. I think that result also speaks a little bit to classic Dutch defending. So
yeah.
All right, cool. Let's talk a little bit now about the promotion battle that's going on in the Lengjudeldin. I probably didn't say that right, but that's how I'm going to say it. Bring us up to speed. So last episode we mentioned that the second leg still had to take place. Those have taken place now. So who is the final? Who's in the final?
So we have the first team to make it was Afturelding, who beat Leiknir at home 3-0. Overall, a very
convincing.
Yeah, exactly. Overall, a very convincing result. I think that was, and they've had a good season, like we mentioned. So it's good to see them in the final, because I think they've deserved it over the whole season. And they'll be facing Vestri, who drew 1-1 against Fjölnir, and they win 2-1 on aggregate. So it's going to be interesting if we're going to have not fully new teams. Vestri was in the first or top division 40 years ago, and under another name. And then Afturelding, I don't think they've ever been in the top division, so it's quite cool that we get these newish names in the Breiðablik, along with a more traditional powerhouse in IA. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the final will be at the National Team Stadium in Laugardalsvöllur this weekend. So interesting to see who makes it.
Anybody in particular that you're leaning towards between those two that you'd like to see more?
My heart would say Vestri, because my dad's family is from Ísafjörður, so I've spent a lot of time there.
Okay.
And then it's like I said before, it's also just nice to get a an out of towner in the league as well.
Yeah.
It's always more fun when it's the whole league is not just Reykjavik teams.
Yeah.
So I'll be rooting for Vestri
I
personally.
agree. Cool. I love it. I'll join you in that since I have no idea about either side. So I'll go with you. All right, perfect. Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about our 3 stars around, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. Okay, welcome back. Let's dive right in. So our 3 stars of the round. I think 2 of them definitely picked themselves. I think the third one, I don't know, there were a few other names in the hat for sure. But some really good performances from several players this week. So we'll kick things off. Our first star is going to go to Sverrir Pál from IBVF. His 2 late goals in the 80th and 85th minute really helped get a point for IBVF against Fram. A valuable point. It looked for a while like he had the winner, but credit to him. Even though his second goal was a little questionable maybe, he was in the right place at the right time, and I think that definitely counts for something. So he made our player of the round.
And yeah, the second one is like an automatic. We try to rotate these things around a little bit so we don't just give it to the same players all the time. But I mean, this taketh could have gotten a few of these stars this season. But yeah, I think he left us with no choice this week. 2 great goals and just completely dominated F1.
Yeah.
And he'll be missed in the league.
I was reading an article on I can't remember if it was Víkingur or anyways, somebody wrote an article where they called him the little Leo Messi. And so I think he was definitely replicating some things that sometimes we've seen Messi do in terms of dribbling and whatnot. So yeah, definitely deserved. Our third and final star goes to Sammy Campbell. And as I mentioned earlier, he has really been key for Keflavik this season. I think when he's been available, he's been injured for what seems like a lot of the season, and you just wonder if he'd been more healthy, maybe it would be a different story a little bit for Keflavik. But another strong performance against Haukau, and he got the winner in the end. Yeah, we'll give him our 3rd star for this week. So there you go. There's our 3 stars of the round. Yeah, I guess that'll do it for this episode. Unless Tryggvi, you have anything else you want to add?
No, just looking forward to an exciting round on Thursday, because we get Thursday and then Sunday again, right? It comes thick and fast. Thursday, Sunday, and then 1 or 2 games on Monday. So before we have the last round the following weekend. So try to catch as many games as you can. I know we will. So, and then we look forward to talking about them soon enough.
Yeah, that's right. It's a quote-unquote English week this week. So Thursday's got a full slate of games. Looks like Kawa kicks us off against IBVF around noon my time here in the States, which is about 6 your time and 4 in Reykjavik. And yeah, and then all the rest of the games kick off at 3:15. So we'll have to figure out a way to get 5 screens. No, it'll be good. You can find all those games on OneFootball on the app. And yeah, hopefully you'll tune in like us. And I guess that's it. So from myself, it's bye, Tryggvi.
Yeah, bye everyone.
All right, we'll see ya.